How often have we heard someone say, "Oh, that seems to be an impossible feat to achieve"? How often have we discouraged ourselves from striving for something just because we felt it was not out of our reach? How often do we tell ourselves that numbers and personal finance are not for me? Most importantly, how often do we let these negative thoughts linger on in our minds and find our life goals slipping away in front of us? Well, say goodbye to that negativity, for we have Miss Rita Chowdhury, independent process transformation consultant and mentor, and ex SVP at Bank of America, to speak to us on the topic using Lean to develop a can do mindset. Ms. Rita has strong experience in change management in metrics organizations and has a bias for data. A proponent of lean principles, she has extensive understanding of process redesign, waste reduction in the system, and focusing on customer value. Over to you, Ms. Rita.
Thanks a lot, Sneha. And a very good evening to everybody. I just, this is such an opportune moment to have this session because we've all been living through the pandemic, and the pandemic has really rebooted our lives. It's rebooted our relationship with ourselves, our colleagues, our family members, and also our attitude towards money. I think, while we were staying at home, we realized what we didn't need, what were essentials, what was non-essential. And while the pandemic has created distress in everybody, I think it has created far more uh, pain to women. There is a McKinsey study which actually mentions that for every job that one man lost, there were 1.8 women who lost their jobs. We live in an unfair world, but what could we have done better? And really, we are now at the cusp where we have to start thinking that if we could have built, managing personal finance as a skill, as a life skill for women, then we feel far more empowered, far more liberated, and it would kind of prepare us for exigencies. We're never ever well prepared for exigencies like loss of job or loss of a dear one. But somehow financial, I think, security brings you there. So today, while Sneha has talked about, lean principles and all, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm really going to talk about a personal story, and through my personal story, take you through a principle called 5S. But I will keep 5S aside for a minute, and I will just tell you about our financial awareness of women that we have. It's an entire spectrum. On one end, we have smart women who are trading on the stock exchange, on structured products, they're buying structured products, they're buying FNO, they're buying shares, they're trading, they're damn savvy. On the other hand of the spectrum are these careless people who don't care, who don't want to know. It's, I want to wear blinkers. I don't want to know. Just I'll earn the money. I'll give it to you. You invest. But I think somewhere the answer is in between where you have a whole bunch of smart women who want to know but don't know how to start. And really, if I talk to you about some of the stories, I want to tell you about my own sister. Very intelligent, exceptionally bright, did well for herself. Come the meltdown in the Sensex in March, she goes and sells off her entire equity portfolio. If she had remained invested like Lakshmi just mentioned, she would have made a straight CAGR because she's a lump sum investor of at least 17, 18%. There's another friend who just lost her job, huge liabilities, and she comes and proudly tells me, guess what? I've been very meticulous with my savings. My savings have been I repeat, all in bank FDs. And it was at the tip of my mouth to ask her, and what does it do to your tax? And what does it do to inflation? And has your money grown? And I'm not the expert to tell you, and there are people like Ganesh and Lakshmi and others who will tell you about how you can build your finances. But today I'm going to tell you about how you can start. And really, the reason why I'm picking this thing on how can you start, I'm talking about a thing called 5S, a technique called 5S. 5S is a principle that is part of a lean manufacturing methodology. In post World War II Japan, there was lean manufacturing simply meant that you would increase the value of a customer by reducing waste. And when you reduce waste, you continuously improve on your processes and continue to deliver value. 5S is a principle of this lean methodology. And I will come to what does 5 stand for, what are the 5 S's. And I'll just, for a minute, share the screen with you. Just a minute. I'm sorry. I just, so I just want to mention that this is what 5S is. It is about sorting, and I will take you through each of these concepts while I speak. Why did I choose 5S? It came from a very, very personal um, big event in my life, and I lost my father in December 2019. When I lost my father in December 2019, he was a career banker who thought he saved very diligently, which he did. And for us as a family, we knew the amount of money he had, and we kind of knew what he did with it. However, when he passed on, that's where the nightmare began because it wasn't about diligence. It was about being meticulous. Where did he save the money? Where are the papers? Where are the nominations? Where is the will? What is the will saying? I mean, those huge number of questions you can. And I was thinking to myself, if we had in those days, of course he was an old man, but if I could have very simplified and said, why don't we use 5S? I think we wouldn't have struggled even as of today. So I'm going to take that event as a case study and explain 5S to you. So the first part of 5S, so what does 5S do in a manufacturing situation? It really just cleans up the environment in which it labels off your equipment. It'll set up the floor plan so that there's less movement between people. Then you know where things are. You're not losing time. You're not overproducing. You're not wasting, and there are no defects. But you're taking this concept, and this concept has been now switched over to other fields beyond manufacturing, like IT services, knowledge services, and today it's a philosophy and a mindset. So with that, I want to start with what is the first S, which is sort. Sort is really taking a look, and I'm going to transform this or transmit this to the financial services world. So when you say sort, I'm really taking a look of what I have. What is it that I have? Now, you don't have to know, like, even if, let's say, someone in your family is managing the accounts, your savings, ask them one day, show me what I have, show me what we have together, show me what I don't have. I hope they can show you, and especially if you're married and there's trust, they should be able to have a far more transparent discussion. Show me what you have. So in this part of showing me what I have, I will box things by income, by expenses, by debt, by investment, by mutual funds, shares, FDs, capital assets, and the like. So once you know what you have, you also need to know what you need. Do I need this? I have 10 bank accounts. Do I need this? And what is it I don't need? What you don't need is what you call red tag technique. It doesn't mean that here's a share certificate of a company which has closed, so I just tear it up and throw it. No, you're not going to throw anything. You just tag it and keep it aside. And you take a look at it at a later date, because your priority is to see what you have and what you need. Coming back to the case study, when we started doing the sort exercise for my dad, we suddenly realized he had multiple accounts with the same bank, with the same branch, and there was no, it wasn't, and they were all saving schemes. So we were like wondering, what is it? And then when we went and spoke to the bankers, we suddenly realized that every time an RM changed, that he or she would convince this old gentleman to open an account, and he would open an account, and with the account came checkbooks and debit cards and the like, a whole bunch of things. We unearthed a whole lot of shares, which were some of them in a physical form, all kinds of things. Some in companies which are closed. So if you understand what I'm saying, this is like a stock taking of what I need. We then move on to set in order. What you do in set in order, when you say I need it, here you're really, what you're doing is you're re-looking at at everything that you have with a truth code. For example, you have savings. Where are the savings account? Where is my debit card? Who's the check? Who has the checkbooks? Where is, who are the co-owners? Where are the nominations? You'll go to that extent to see that should something happen to you or me or whoever owns it, that there is a smooth transition to the next successor. Same goes for mutual funds. We go and buy mutual funds, and we have innumerable funds. And I'm a big proponent of mutual fund, don't take me wrong. But it doesn't mean that you have to have 30 and 40, you 40 funds, some of the same fund houses, some of the same type of funds. It's not required. And therefore, you may want to consolidate it. Do we check the performance of these funds? Do we check the performance of shares? Do we check to see whether you're getting any kind of dividend? Do we check to see if the account, I mean, if the company actually exists? What about insurance? The biggest and the most aggressive sales guys you see is not just sitting in the banks, but you also see them in the insurance companies. You'll have dime a dozen pushing insurance, and you're buying insurance without thinking that you need it, don't need it. You're paying premium, you don't even know what are your exclusions. You'll find a whole bunch of it. And this is not just insurance. Like I gave you the example of my dad and his bank accounts. You'll see, I've been in the financial sector. At one point, I had 50 funds, and I'm now, I'm actually advocating the fact that you need to consolidate. And that was helped by my RM in the bank and not by me. So when it came to I'm just going back to this case study of what was set in order. When we wanted to set things in order, first thing we knew is we had to consolidate the accounts, and we had to look at the big picture. What are my goals? What are my financial goals? If I have to set things in order, I first need to know what are my financial goals. Do I have to send my son for education? Do we have to get someone married? Do I have to buy a house? Do I have to repay very expensive debt? There can be do I have to go for vacation? And then you also need to know, you understand your risk appetite. Like I've mentioned, this friend of mine put everything in FDs. To me, that's a suboptimal option, but it may suit her risk profile. And I'm no one to say whether she should or should not, but I have reservations. So you need to understand your risk. And there, again, going back to what Lakshmi says, you need to tap on that advisor who's sitting next to you, the banker who's sitting next to you. Ask for formal expert advice if you can't do it yourself. Don't try to be an expert. We aren't experts. We don't understand all the nuances of products. And it's okay. And a lot of it is free. Some of it you may have to pay for. Some of it you read. There are enough things on the site, on the internet where you can. So once you know you have set in order, and another important part of once you set things in order, you digitize certain things, you need to digitize certain, you need to store your, your credit card, your debit card, your checkbook, your your passwords, and you store it in a digital space or in a physical space, you have to communicate where are these things with someone you trust, with a, it could be a family member or whoever, but you have to communicate. It's again, I'm giving you the example of my dad. He did all of this. He vaguely told us what was happening. We vaguely knew what, but we did not know specifically what was happening. And it wasn't that he was trying to be secretive. It's just that it didn't occur. It didn't occur. So, and this is a, you know, I mean, as women, we have to understand that 90% of us will outlive our spouses because our whole longevity is much higher. So the time to start in, getting interested is now. It's never too late. So with that, I want to transition to the next S, which is shine. Shine is really about those, when you were setting things in order, it's like cleaning your cupboard and you suddenly see this expensive dress you bought 5 years ago, you no longer fit in there, and you say, gosh, I went and bought this. Shit, what do I do with it? Do I lose weight or do I give it off to someone? Those are those aha moments where you discover things about yourself. It is about those making those changes, those behavioral changes. Why, if you go through your credit card statements in your previous thing of setting it on order, and you look at your 6 months credit card statement, it's a huge and a very accurate insight into your spending pattern. You'll know whether you're spendthrift or you're thrifty or you spend, sensibly. It's all up to you. And then this in shine, you will really do the cleanup. Once you know what to do, this is where you actually take the steps of going to the bank saying, I need a joint holder, I need a nomination, I need to dematerialize, I need my share of, my demat shares to be linked to a trading account, even if I don't trade. So should something happen, they can be liquidated. Now, again, going back to my, as far as this case study is concerned, when it comes to my dad, and while we really are at the shine piece, and this is taking us forever. This is one of the most difficult things, because given the rules and regulations, you can't just transfer assets like that. And therefore, I cannot underscore how important it is for you to know what's going on behind the scenes. Yes, you manage the budget in all probability. You're saying X amount to be spent every month. Here's the money. But you know Y amount goes for investment. And most of us, or many of us, may be least interested in the Y. This is about getting interested in the Y. So shine is really about cleaning. And while you clean it, please ensure you have a will. I mean, yes, I mean, death is inevitable, but we are not talking of death. We don't know when we're going to die, but it's important that we all have a will, so that whenever it is that you're not going to create trouble for people who survive you or outlast you. It is making those behavioral changes. It is about telling me, can I save a little more? Once you understand the picture, it's, 5S is fabulous because it's a visual thing. It's a mirror of what's going on in your financial life or in your life. So if you know you're spending a lot, I mean, it's a no-brainer that you have to spend less to save more. But I don't want to give you those saying, I don't think you should have a latte, I don't think you should buy. That's not my job, because you tell me go for a walk. I don't understand anyone's, financial situation. Therefore, I'm not going to give you solutions. But all I'm telling you is that we all have challenges of understanding finance. 5S will help you at least spread it out. Like it's like you're trying to solve the jigsaw. You are beginning to put those little pieces together to understand what's going on. And once you take action based on your needs, you will go to the next thing of standardizing. Standardizing is those aha moments, that you've gone through. Ah, I spend a lot. Oh, can I save a little more? Can I save 600 more rupees more? And instead of it, this is about saying it's very difficult to change our habits, and habits die hard. And I want to say that suppose instead you told yourself, and in this whole behavioral economics, they say, I mean, you can't change, it has to come from within, right? As a transformation catalyst, one thing I know is know better is to tell people it's time to change. They're fixing out. So it's about telling yourself, can I change it, save 600? They say, you probably say, no, 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 not possible. But suppose I tell myself, can I save 20 rupees a day? The answer is probably yes, and the outcomes are the same. So those are the type of micro changes you should start making, and making a standardized rule set for yourself. For example, you can tell yourself, I'm no longer going to buy an expensive product, financial product, without telling someone, or, you know, asking somebody about it. I'm no longer going to do things which don't mean anything to me, say even one. Can I save some more? Can I, those are the rule sets that you have. I will not dip into my savings this year as far as possible. I will clear my credit card loans. I will not revolve my loans. Those are some of the things that you keep, is what you standardize. Finally, you do this entire activity, it is about sustaining. It's like cleaning your house. We clean it every day. We don't clean our cupboards every day. We may do it once, say once a month. But this is, when it comes to finances, it's so important to you. I think it's, it makes sense to revisit it at least once a month, because we live in a very, very volatile situation, not just our ecosystem, but it's also our lives. We don't know what's happening. So it's important that our goalposts may change, or my job may change. I may not have a job. The markets may collapse. There may be a war. So why would it not make it a habit to look at what you have at least once a year or once a month? If that's too much, make it once in 6 weeks. But the underscoring it is saying, look at it. It's important for you. It's important for women. Financial security is important. So, summarizing everything, all I'm saying is I've taken a case study of what's happened in my own life, introduced a concept of 5S, which is really taking a broader look at what you have, whether it's managed by yourself or by someone, going through it with a fine-tooth comb, making a habit, making certain standard rules based on what you're seeing, and making a habit of revisiting your plans, your future, your goals once a month to see how far you are. Are you happy? Are you not happy? And so on. So with that, I want to thank Her Money Talks. I want to thank the BSC for letting me come here. And I do hope, and I really hope, women I'm more power to them. And I'm sure this is just, we are midway through it. Things are going to change. I'm very positive of that. And I'm sure we're going to see much more in the next few days where we will have further discussions around this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rita. That was a phenomenal articulation on using the power of human mind and reaching within ourselves to explore our limits with numbers and in life. Thank you.